Hello everybody and welcome back to my series of videos where I show you how to make SRB2 maps. Today we're going to take a look at water, slopes, color mapping, and exit sectors, and I think while we're at it we're going to talk about checkpoints too. So let's go ahead and just get started right away. Our finished map is going to be looking a little bit like this. I was just kind of making it to make sure I knew what all I was doing. We're going to just trash that and make a new map. It's just going to be map 01. We're not doing anything particularly special yet. And here's the grid. So let's make just some real basic shapes. How about we just do like that? Yeah, that'll be fine. And then we can go into vertex mode, drag over that vertex, get rid of it. We don't need it. Go into line depth mode, drag this out a little bit. Yeah, that should work just fine. Okay, so to start with, let's go ahead, go into sector mode, right click on this sector, and let's go ahead and change it to, oh yeah, this should probably be over here. I've got two monitors, so this will be fun. Where was I? Here we go. Let's go ahead and change that to GFZ floor 2. Let's just make some basic details here. Here's another rectangle, and here's another rectangle, and how about a line over here, and another line, and how about a square? And what else can we make here? Yeah, we can do like a little thing here, and a little thing coming off of that. Yeah, there we go. That's enough to start with. So, oh, right. This is interesting. So you'll notice we made all that, and some of our sectors are connected together. That's because this is one sector. So if we want, we can edit all that at once and give it all the same flat, all the same properties. For now, though, I'm going to go ahead and use the Make Sectors tool and just click on all the sectors and make sure everything's nice and separated. So we're going to go into 3D mode, and everything is even flatter than it was last time, but we're going to shift click on our sky, we're going to right click, set that to, oh, I don't know, 1024, why not? Hit C to clear the selection, and let's bring this down. We're going to right click and set that ceiling to 256, and you'll notice that blocks off everything past it. This is intentional. This is what happens in SRB2 when you do stuff like this. So instead of doing that, which looks kind of stupid, we're going to go ahead and set our floor to GFC floor 1. We're going to set our ceiling to GFC floor 1. And now we have to take care of these textures, which I should probably do individually, because sometimes you go and edit two upper textures and they're on different sides of a side def. And that just gets confusing. So, yeah, that's good right there. Let's take down the light level by hovering over that sector and holding control and using our mouse wheel to scroll down and decrease the brightness to whatever level we want. Let's make it 192. Okay, so next we're going to want some grass edges. You know, I know it's just a tutorial, but we can make everything look nice, right? Right. So take our GFC grass on the mid texture of both sides, peg that, clear our selection, put that back down, and that is just beautiful. Okay, so there's a couple things I want to do here, a couple things I want to show you. So first, we're gonna take this and this and this, and we're gonna just drop that down by about let's do 96 units. I want to make sure that Sonic can jump out of that. Sonic can only really jump like 100 or like 110 frac units or so. So make sure you have that in mind when you're designing your levels. Let's go ahead and change the flats on that. So let's actually take that down by a bit more. Let's like that. It's probably fine. And we're gonna select all these lines. And luckily, those are all unknown textures on the same side of the line def. Let's go ahead and select these ones, put our grass mid texture back on there. Peg mid texture. Make it all nice. We should probably also take care of this while we're here. That'll become second nature the more outdoor levels you make. It'll just be so quick. Yeah, I think we're ready to get started and show you the things that I was going to show you. So, remember earlier when we were making a floating platform? Well, it turns out water is basically the same thing. You're going to make a triangle. Let's go ahead and edit the sector properties first. Let's see, if my floor is 0, and my floor that I'm going to put my water in is -96, let's go ahead and do 0 and -96, and then use height offset to take that down by 16 more units. You want to do this so that the water isn't exactly level with the rest of your geometry, which looks a little bit better, and also helps with depth perception. Specifically, you want to use offset so that it takes both the ceiling height and the floor height now, because if you don't do that, your floor of your water is going to end up on the floor of your sector, and it's going to look funny. Sometimes that's desirable, most of the time it's not. All depends on what kind of effect you're going for. So, let's go into our Flats browser, and we can just type water. This is super useful. You can type GFZ, you can type TH, DSZ to get all your various zone textures. Right now we just want water. So let's go ahead and use fwater1. That's going to be both our floor and our ceiling. And we don't need a tag on this quite yet, but we do need tags on all 3 of these. So let's make that tag 1. And we'll go ahead and do an effect on this little triangle here. So it's real simple. We're going to go over to FOF Intangible, drop that menu down, and let's do water, translucent, no sides. Usually when you do water, you want to make sure you use the ripple effect because it looks nice. So I'm going to go ahead and check that. And the rest of this, I don't think we need to worry about it right now. So if we needed like a waterfall or something, we would just use water translucent, but we don't have any waterfalls here. So we're going to use water translucent, no sides, and we're not going to worry about the texture that it has. You can set that to anything you want. It literally does not matter. We're going to go ahead and set that to the same tag we just used, which is 1. And we have water. It's right there. It's looking kind of funny though. And oh no, it looks like I've messed up over here. So you can use water. You can use any platform really on how do I put this? Sectors of any height, any floor height really. You can just put this further into the ground and make that disappear, and that'll just work. While we're here, it should probably be a little darker in the water, so let's go ahead and take that down to 192 brightness. And while I'm talking about brightness, generally it's not considered good form to leave your level at maximum brightness because it's not good for depth perception, which is something you really need in SRB2. So let's go ahead and take all these and take it down to 240, and I don't know why that looks like that. What is happening? That's weird. Well, let's go ahead and just do all the rest of these too, because I should have done that. Luckily, it's not hard to do. So we got, where it is, 192, 240, 240, right? Yep. It looks a little bit dark in the editor, but trust me, it looks fine in game. And then we have our water, which is slightly darker at 192. So before we test this, let's go ahead and throw a player start in there. Our good old player 1 Sonic in mid transformation. And let's hit F9 and test. And I'm going to have to actually drag SRB2 over here because I'm using 2 monitors. Anyway, welcome to our level. Let's go ahead and walk around a little bit, see what's... Oh, well that's weird. Our water isn't blue. The top of it's blue, but inside the water it's just It's just regular. It's just slightly dark. That's because water doesn't come with a tint. You have to manually tint it, which we're about to do as soon as I apply another effect. Yeah, I think that's about all we need to do here. So, we're gonna make another triangle and not another player start. Generally, you want to put all 32 player starts in your level, but this is a tutorial, so I don't care about that. Anyway, we're gonna do something exciting. We're gonna go into our actions. Let's see. You can just type in color map because we have a handy-dandy filter there, or we can go to lighting, color map, which is action 606. So we don't need texture offsets here. We're going to set this tag to, oh, I don't know, 5. Why not? And I'm not even going to bother showing you how that looks in game yet, because it doesn't look like anything. Especially not until we tag this to 5. Unless, no, I did that wrong. We actually want to tag our water control sector to tag 5. And now I'd like you to take a look at the wiki. This is our article for line def type 606, or color map. And the wiki is super helpful for stuff that's updated, because you can just look straight to line def special info and it gives you everything you need right there. So basically, we're just going to copy this generic blue watercolor, and we're going to go to our color map, and that's going to go in the upper front side texture. Now you're probably wondering what all this means. I don't know what the pound symbol means, but you need it. Then you have a hexadecimal 2-digit red value, hexadecimal 2-digit green value, and hexadecimal 2-digit blue number, followed by a letter from A to Z indicating how opaque it is, the intensity of the color map, so to speak, where A is the least intense and Z is the most intense. So basically, we're getting this kind of color here, and it's going to be kind of medium intensity. And that should be all we need to do there. So we have our color map. Yep, it's going to our water floor over floor. And yeah, we can just look at this now. And we can tell that the color map is there just by looking at it, because it's blue under there. It is so blue under there. Let's look at it in game too, just for fun. We'll just go over here, go down here, and it's blue in here. How about that? That's pretty cool, right? Okay. Anyway, now that we have our water, we can focus on the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is how to stack floor over floors on top of floor over floors. This is real easy, very tedious, and sometimes confusing, but it's really not that hard. So we have our water, right? Let's make another sector within our water. Control D to make lines. Let's go ahead and make it 256 by 256. V to go into vertices. Right click the vertex to fix the positioning. And let's have there be a reason for there to be an FOF here. We want to get up here, but up here is going to be 120 units higher than down here. So this will just be kind of a little step. We're going to give this a new tag. You'll notice our water is no longer there because our water is only for tag 1. But have no fear, because we don't actually have to make an entirely new control sector for this in particular. We can just kind of do the exact same thing we just did, except with tag 2. So you don't always want to do that, but in this particular case, it allows you to move the water level without having to move ceiling heights of 2 different sectors. Okay, so we have our tag 1, we have our tag 2. Let's put our floating platform on top of it. This is real easy. We're just going to use our line def effect 100, which is our solid opaque FOF. It's right there under solid FOFs. Tag it 2. go to the sector. I don't feel like putting grass on it, so let's just do GFZ floor 1. Take brightness down to 192 so it has a nice little shadow. Let's see, our floor height's going to be 0. Ceiling's going to be 64. And I think that'll do it. So you hover over these green lines and it'll point to what it's tagged to. So this line is tagged to our square up there, our tag of 2, and so is this. So what that's going to look like is this. So we can go under here and we can walk around in the water, we can jump out of the water, walk on top of this platform, go over here. Cool, right? Let's see. Why do we want to get up there anyway? Let's talk about exit sectors. So first things first, you want to make sure your exit sector has a sign to let players know that the exit is there. Go ahead and point your exit towards wherever the player is supposed to be coming from to get there. And you can write its signpost. So go ahead and put that there. And then, and you want to make sure this is right on your line too, and that it's surrounded on 3 sides. Because if you just put like a circle somewhere with your sign in the middle of it, it's kind of awkward. It's not, and occasionally kind of confusing. So the way we're going to mark this as our exit is we're going to go into Sector Special. You can use the drop-down menu here. I don't really like to do that. I kind of prefer to go into the dialog box here. And if I just search for exit, it gives you exit, special stage, pit, return flag. Now, this particular line def effect has sector action has different effects depending on what game type you're in. But we're only worried about single player right now, so it's an exit. So that's number 8192. You might want to remember that, it's pretty important. Got to make sure your level has an exit if it's single player and you want to submit it to the message board. So there's our exit. Let's see. But on the way to our exit, we want to have a couple of star posts. Because you got to have checkpoints in your level, right? So let's go ahead and put down another thing. And we can filter by star post. Okay, these are a little bit more involved. For your first star post, you can just pick an angle, right? And then for your second star post, let's go ahead and duplicate that by holding shift. We're going to right click this. We're going to point it to the angle we want it to go. And then we're going to go in here and type ++360 and hit OK. And I messed that up actually. I wanted to do, I guess I should have done 180 first, then hit OK, then come back and did ++360. Or you can just use the scroll wheel and do whatever it is you need to do. Right? So let's go ahead and set that all the way up to 540 because that's 180 plus 360. Basically, you're adding 360 for every star post you have. And that kind of, the multiple of 360 kind of acts as the checkpoint's ID in a way. So if I've done this correctly, and let's just line those up a little bit better with where they're supposed to go. If I've done this correctly, I can hit F9, drag my game window over. Now if you do this correctly, these should not both go off at once. There's your one, and there's your other one. And if this exit is working properly, we should go here, and it should just work. So that's great. That'll give you the end tally count thing, of course. Let's see, what else do we want to do? I think I want to talk about slopes while I'm here, because slopes are pretty important. So let's go ahead and just draw a rectangle. So I already had a rectangle here. Let's take that up by, oh, I don't know, 256. Yeah, sure, that'll work. Now, I could just put the textures on and, you know, not really think about it too much. That could just be scenery if we wanted it to. But I don't want that to just be scenery. I don't want the player to want to get up there, because I want there to be something up there. So let's do kind of like that, and just shrink this a little bit, make it a little more compact. And let's put something good up there. Let's put how about an extra life? People like extra lives, right? Okay, so we can reset the angle if we want to. Right, so there's a cute little extra life. So there's a couple ways you can go about sloping. What I do usually is I like to hover over the line def, press F to flip it the way I want it to go, and then just set action to 700, and then do this, which I'm just using my mouse wheel, of course, to raise that up. If I want to, I can undo all of that and then raise it up, look at the line def I want to slope, and hit Alt S, except that was the wrong way. I think I just sloped my backside. Yeah, that's slope backside floor. It's really important that you know which side you're sloping. You can see here that the backside def has no texture, has a missing texture rather, and the front side def just doesn't have any texture. So the one you want to slope here is going to be your backside, or excuse me, your front side. That should about cover it, really. But yeah, let's go ahead, give that action 700. You have all kinds of slope stuff here. You can slope the floor, you can slope the ceiling, you can slope the floor and ceiling, you can slope front floor and back ceiling, you can slope by vertex things, all the same stuff for the backside, and you can copy other slopes. And I don't actually know what this one does, but I bet we'll get to it eventually. But right now, let's just do front side. So we're not going to need this texture anymore, because we actually need to apply that here instead. Now again, make sure that you either peg your mid texture or you do lower unpegged. Another fun thing you can do on these sloped lines like this is you can actually enable slope skewing, and that'll skew your whole texture. It'll kind of stretch it to match with the slope angle. Let's go ahead and leave that on for now because it looks kind of neat. And if I've done this right, yeah, look at that beautiful slope and our beautiful star post. And it's a little hard to get up here because it's pretty steep. But yeah, there's that. And then maybe there's something over there we can go get. We can make something over there later, and we can skip that platform and just go straight over here and finish. Because that's fun, right? Let's see. What else did I want to talk about? I think the last thing I want to get at is something called a Thok barrier. Thok barrier is a term that used to mean level boundary, sort of. They were required so that Sonic wouldn't be able to Thok outside the map. However, that bug is fixed now and they're optional. So you can use them to do a few things. What I'm going to use them to do here first is make the sky a little more visible in this area. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of trace out an outline along everywhere I want that sky to be visible. Yeah, sure, we'll go over here too. So this is going to look a little funny at first, and your textures are going to be kind of weird after this. So the proper use of a Thok barrier is to set its floor and ceiling heights to the same value, and make sure, well, you can use the sky texture if you want, you can use something else. If you want sky to show up correctly above it, you're going to need to make sure your ceiling is f_sky1. It's very important that you only use f_sky1. You don't want to go in here and say, oh, well, I want sky2. Well, It doesn't work like that, because it's going to just render this flat, and then you're not going to actually get visible sky there. So let's go ahead and put fsky1 back. Let's also change this texture, because you will be able to see it, and you might as well make it blend in. And then we can select all these, and this, and how about that? And don't worry about upper texture, especially if you want your sky to be visible. Let's put our lower texture as GFZ rock. Clear. And then we can see some sky. And that's pretty cool, right? Now the other thing you can use Thok barriers for is to just have two different textures on one wall. So let's go ahead and we're going to set this to 512 and 512. We're not going to worry about what the floor and ceiling flats are. We're just going to set them to something other than sky. Leave that there like that. And you'll notice we're getting textures down here, and then we have more textures we can set up here. So let's go ahead. Oh, I guess we don't want to shift click there. I guess in this case we want to just select them individually, because all this stuff up here is unknown too. You got to keep that in mind. So what we can do, let's do where the lower is GFZ rock, and then what if we just want to make the top bigger GFZ rock? Yeah, now we're talking. That looks a little funny over there, so let's just hit Shift R, which should reset our texture offsets, and then hit A, which should align this over here. And that looks a little bit funny because I've kind of made this a strange shape, but that's not terribly important right now. The point is, we have two different textures on one wall. Now, if you really want to get fancy, and I know some of you do, what we can do, let's take this down to 320 like our other Thok barrier there. Let's cheat a little bit by moving this vertex as close as we can right there. We're going to select all three of these again. We're going to make them impassable. And then we're going to take our middle texture here, and we're going to set that to something else entirely, like, oh, I don't know, that, for example. Okay, so here's a good example of where you actually need to use, which one of these is it? Repeat mid texture. This works with, all kinds of stuff. Like, usually when you put a mid texture on, it only draws it once, like with the grass. But if you need it to draw multiple times, you got to repeat mid texture. And that should look just fine, basically. That's pretty much the limit of what you can do with one side def. You can really only have a lower, a middle, and an upper texture. But you could do a lot with just that. And with that, I think we're pretty much done here. So for fun, let's just throw some rings in. Let's see, you can go there and there and there, and let's kind of move these here. In fact, let's keep those selected because they'll stay selected if we go into 3D mode. You see they've got those red outlines, they're kind of flashing, they're still selected. Now, if you just hover over them over this water here, you're going to end up moving the water. So what you want to do is press Tab to turn off special effects. And you can... It's actually easier usually to just right-click them and set the height manually. So let's set that to 128 and turn our special effects back on. That's pretty cool, right? And how about we throw a badnik over here, like a crawler, for example. Oh, we don't need the ambush flag. One thing that's important is you don't want your player to be able to be hit by enemies right away. So even if we're spawning, say, over here, you want to make sure there's at least like a line def between your player and your enemy, and you can right-click that line def and block enemies with it, and then that crawler will no longer be able to cross that. We're not doing that right now, though, so I'm just going to put that back. let's add some more rings. We can just copy and paste that. Oh, where have I gone? Yeah, and we can, right. So a fun thing about pasting things is you get this box, and you can drag on these yellow corners to rotate, or you can drag on the orange dots to kind of stretch and skew it. These would stretch across there if there was more than one object there. Let's go ahead and put that back, and they're almost raised up, so we want to make sure they're always raised 24 units off the ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4 times 8 is 24. And we can do that. Last important thing that I think is worth mentioning: air bubbles. You don't really want your player to have to go through water as fast as humanly possible in order to get past it and not drown. This is especially true in places like Azure Temple and Deep Sea Zones. So let's go ahead and put another object down. Can we just type bubble? Yep, we can type air bubble patch. And now we have a bubble patch. And I think that's all we really need to cover today. So we got our floating rings. We've got our beautiful blue water with the ripple effect on top. We've got our crawler over here just chilling. We got our nice slope with a secret on top. We got our individual checkpoints. Maybe we put something in the water, and we want to make sure the player can breathe down there, right? We can go on top of our platform and walk around. We can go under our platform and walk around. And we can finish the level. Okay, I think that's about all I wanted to cover today. Okay, so I lied. I stopped recording and I remembered something. So before we really get finished here, I wanna take a second and do something more complicated with the slope over here, because this is actually very important. So right now we have just like this straight slope going to a slope that's not a slope, going to a sector that's just a straight line. So if we want to get creative, we can do something like this. Now that'll look funny, but bear with me for a second, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this one slope into two slopes. So we're just gonna divide that right through the middle. We're gonna press L to go into line def mode and hover over our line def, press F, set it to action 700, or don't flip it and set it to 710 instead. Doesn't really matter. I just like using 700. And you're just going to take this down until it meets your other slope part here. And that should look just fine. It gets kind of hard to align those perfectly, so don't worry about that too much. Just do the best you can. And let's boot the game one more time and have a little look-see at it. Yeah, you'll notice the flat is kind of funny looking. You can see the divide there. But the point is, it works. It doesn't have to be the prettiest thing. You also probably want to make sure you can't just spin dash and you screw up like that. But yeah, now we're really done. Let's see, can I think of any extra tips or anything? Right, so for color mapping in particular, you probably want to refer to the wiki, because there's more you can do than just set your upper texture to a color and an alpha. There's extra settings you can do for the middle texture, and for the lower texture, it's a color to fade to instead of black, which is very useful if you have a water FOF with a very low brightness value. Other than that, I don't think there's really anything else to cover. Yeah, I think that's about it. So, thanks for watching. Catch me in the next video. And yeah, see you soon.